Our next two panelists, we have Dylan White from Fat Boys Farms in Oregon. And so I was asked to share with y'all briefly that he is a Floridian, even though he's been out in Oregon. And he's won the award for furthest travel, so he came all the way from Oregon for this meeting today. And he plans on moving back to Florida, I guess here in December.
In December, I'll be in Madison.
So he'll be in Madison County, so he'll be back here in the Panhandle. And then our second panelist up here is Harris Morgan from Pretoria Fields. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to them. We've got Dylan first here on the schedule, so we'll let him say a few words and move from there. Just like before, if y'all could please hold questions. We've only got two panelists in an hour, so we'll give them 20 minutes each and then try 20 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am Dylan White. I currently live in Oregon right now. I've been growing hemp for 4 years now. The cannabis plants take me all the way across America. I do not want anyone to be scared of growing hemp. Hemp is an easy plant to grow. There has been a lot of research in other states that you can utilize in Florida. One of my major issues right now in Oregon is the cold. Obviously here in Florida, we don't have that issue that much. So I do expect 3 to 4 harvests a year. Right now, I'm in the consumable hemp industry. I grow premium top colas of the flower. So around 55 days in flower, my team comes, we take the top cola off the plant, we dry that, and then the rest of the plant gets sent to the processor for biomass. Here in Florida, we won't be able to field dry, which I do in Oregon, because of the 15% relative humidity, and here it's always over 60. So that's a no-go. We're gonna have to use a lot of combines, shredding the product, and going to the processors, which again, the processors are gonna help the farmers. Also, how many people in here plan on growing for oil? If I raise a hand. Wow, only a few. It's going to be a different thing than growing industrial hemp. Clones are the way to go for high CBD oil, like Scott said, just because of the different phenotypes. These seed companies don't have all the DNA down yet, so clones are the way to go. For industrial hemp, definitely seeds because the cost is there. Also, how many people plan on growing over 100 acres of hemp this year? Just a few. Okay. Also, how many others have grown products like soybean? Very few? Okay. My farm in Oregon is a startup company. So I started with 5 acres, now I have 30 acres. Here in Florida, in Madison, I'll be growing 70 acres of CBD oil. The CBD oil plant in Florida is gonna bud rot a lot. So, excuse me. Also, the different latitudes will affect the crop. Besides that, I don't have much. I'm just experienced farmer. I'm here to answer questions. Also, the seasonal work, I hire around every 10 acres 2 full-time employees. And then when it's time to harvest, I have about 15 seasonal workers come in. And that's on the 30 acres. So there will be a lot of employees and new workers coming to North Florida, which is gonna be great because after Hurricane Michael, everyone's gone. So I'm very excited to move back to Florida and produce hemp. Besides that, I'm here to answer questions after. Thank you so much.
All right, so that was short and sweet, so that's more time for questions, which sounds like what he wants. So we'll turn it over to Harris Morgan.
We're from Albany, Georgia. we're building an extraction plant or a processing plant in Albany, Georgia. Actually, I'm a retired pharmacist who has a degree in agriculture. My son owns Pretoria Fields Collective. We own a microbrewery, and we grow all the organic product to make our beer with. So we're an organic farm along with trying to get into another part of the business of growing hemp. I'm going to talk to you a few minutes about what we see. I'm going to give you a few insights of what Georgia's doing compared to what's going on in Florida. We don't have a license either yet. We're in the same boat as Florida is waiting for them to start issuing the license. But in Georgia, we understand that if you're going to grow hemp, you have to be attached to a processing plant, which means that you're going to be joined at the hip with the farmers and with the processor. So it behooves the processor to be able to help sell your product. So we've got a pretty wide range fold of what we're doing. Now, we haven't grown any hemp either, so I want y'all to understand what I'm telling you, but we've learned a lot. And what we're going to do, we've got about 33 farmers now who have already signed up or going to sign up with us to grow hemp with our processing plant. So we're asking the farmers to not grow more than 5 acres the first year. And the reason is, I heard him say some people say it's easy. What we see is not going to be easy to grow this crop. It's going to be a hard crop to grow. So we're hiring an agronomist to come in and go out to each farm and help these farmers with the process of growing the hemp. We understand the process of getting this crop hot or keeping it from being hot. And so we're putting together a set of plans that the farmer is going to have to probably test his crop weekly to make sure that he doesn't have the problem with the increased THC. We've got a lab in Camilla, Georgia, Waters Lab, that is also in Kentucky, and they understand the tests that need to be done for the hemp business. So we're finding that the land that you need to grow on, you can't just put this behind cotton or peanuts. You're going to have to find land that is either hadn't had anything on it for the last 3 years, more than likely, such as cotton, corn, or peanuts, or row crops. So we're finding land, farmers are finding land that they've had pasture land on, and they've had land that has been out of production for 3 years. You go out and do your soil test to make sure that you don't have the toxic metals in it or have things in it that's going to be, because the plant, and nobody's mentioned this, but the plant is a remediation plant. It'll suck up everything in the soil that you've got there, and it'll clean up the soil. So you've got to be careful of where you're going to put this product. So we're asking farmers to find a location, and let's test it, and then let's go from there. Now, in South Georgia, it's just like North Florida. You've got a problem with humidity, you've got a problem with disease, and you've got a problem with insects. You cannot grow, this stuff has basically got to be grown organically. I mean, there's not anything out there much that you can use. We've found that some farmers are using neem oil as a stuff to use to put on the plants that will help control some of the problems that you have. We've also come to find out that our research guy that's like Jerry here in Florida is Dr. Coulon with the University of Georgia, and he is saying that he has put some in 3 different locations in Georgia, and one's up in the mountain area, one's around Griffin, and then one's down in Tifton, Georgia, and one's over in around Athens. He had different he was able to get, in the one in Blairsville, Georgia, which is North Georgia, he was able to get biomass, dried biomass. He thinks it's going to be around 3 pounds of dried biomass per plant. In the Athens market, Athens area, he was able to get about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of dried biomass per plant. Down in Tifton, it was down around 1 pound. So it's a different all over the area, and it depends on the location. Now, what we are trying to do is we're trying to take, and we're not going to use seed at all with our farmers. It's going to all be clones. We're trying to take the clone, and we'll find a mother plant that maybe is specific for your farm or specific for your farm, and it grows well, and we'll take that, we'll ask that farmer to take that mother plant, and let's make clones that would be specific for his area of where he's growing. So these are the things that we're trying to do. The testing's important. You can over-fertilize this plant, and you can under-fertilize the plant. This stress is very important in what we're trying to do to make it work. What we found that what we see that is going on with growing the hemp, if you want to start out, you're going to need a 4-inch well, more or less, that will be able to put out about 25 or 30 gallons a minute of water, and you'll be able to use drip tape. And we're going to plant ours, and we're asking the farmers to plant about a 4-foot spread with a 10-foot row. So you'll have a 7-foot middle that you're going to have to keep mowed or do something. We're going to plant it under plastic. And we have understanding that you can possibly gas this plastic before you plant and leave it sitting there for about 4 to 6 weeks. And after that, then you can plant. This gassing will help in this. There's a company called Trias that has got a product called chloropicrin that they're using as a gas. And the gas is will kill a lot of the insects and kill the weeds, and it will help the southern blight that we have a problem with. Now, we haven't done any of this, so this is all, but our research guy has said that some of these things are very well can be done, because you won't, when you test it, you won't have a positive for a chemical once you put chloropicrin in. We've talked about growing. We need the land that's there. We want to use clones, and we want you to get a mother plant that you've got that does well in your area, and find you somebody that will put that in a greenhouse and grow it for you. We're talking about testing. The testing is important, that you do it on a weekly basis. This is a crop that you're more than likely going to have to go out and find somebody that's dedicated to walk through this crop on a regular, probably twice a week basis, to see what's going on with the crop because of what the risk you have. Now, I hadn't said anything about the cost, but he's right. It's going to cost you somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 an acre to grow this stuff. That's what we've come up with, that it's going to be. It's somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 an acre. And the cost of the clones is $3 to $5 per clone. Now, we're saying that you want to have a minimum of 1,000. I heard him say 1,800 to 2,000. We're saying a minimum of 1,000 plants, living plants. So you're going to have to plant about 1,200 to 1,400 of them, because you're going to lose about 10% of them to get that number of plants that you want to live.